Kumlan of Black Gemara. Today, Wednesday's daf is daf Samach Vav. So we finished learning about Abaye. And Abaye said that an Eid Echad, and if you contradict him, obviously it's no longer valid. But if you are quiet and you agree with him, a tacit agreement, the Eidus is a valid Eidus. However, we'd have the same discussion now regarding a dover shebe'er. And what happened is as follows: a single Eid came along and tells a man, "Your wife was mezana." And therefore, the question is, does he have to divorce her or not? According to Abaye, if he was quiet and doesn't contradict him, then yes, it's the Eidos. He strengthens the Eidos by him being quiet, and therefore he has to divorce his wife. But according to Rava, when it comes to Dover Sheba'era, a single Eidos does not carry the weight. Says the Gemara here, 10 lines from the top of the page. We have a question. His wife was Nazana with a single Eid, and he's quiet. Mahu. What's it in there? Amar Abaye says, "Never believe, no different." And Rava says, "Einon is not believed. Why? Havi dover shebe'er. This is a matter to do with arayos, and vein dover shebe'er pachashnayim. We have a rule. We learn in in other places. It's getting that a dover shebe'er needs two people." And Trace already. Other Shem ask. We learned before there's a concept called Shavyad and Nafshech Hatichah Surah. I can say to me it's awesome. So if he's quiet. The fact is that he's saying that he believes that she was Mazana. No, that's tantamount to saying that she is a Chaticha D'Yasura. So how can we say he doesn't have to divorce her? So Teza says that Abaye and Rava are arguing much more than just regarding Erev. According to Abaye, an Eid Echad and you're quiet is a din of Eidus. According to Rava, an Eid Echad and you're quiet is not yet a din of Eidus. But what it is it says probably that's what happened. When it comes to Erev, probably is not good enough. So how do I know this? How do I know that a single aid and your shtika is considered like two aidim when it comes to a dover shebe'er? He says as follows: Osami, there was a blind person of the Masada Masniyata Kamei Shmuel that he memorized Mishnah Braysos. He would repeat it before Shmuel. One day Nagle was late because he didn't come. Shmuel said to Shliach, see whether why he's tardy. Shliach went down one route. He came back down. He came to Shmuel's house for another route. When the shliach returned, Omar, each day since I saw another man in the house, your wife was mezan. Also, come Shmuel. Came to before Shmuel. What should I do? If you believe this single witness, then you should divorce your wife. You like topic. If not, you don't divorce. My law. What do you mean if you believe? You believe? Meaning this. The lav gazlanu. If you believe that this aid is trustworthy, he's not a gazlan, then he's a single aid, and you're quiet. Therefore, you have to divorce him. And therefore, supporting me to the Abaye that a single aid in your shtika becomes like two aidim. Now, the fact, what do you mean if he's not a gazlan? If he's not a gazlan, if he is a gazlan, then he's disqualified as an aid. Why is up to him whether he agrees with him, whether he trusts him or not? From here that when an aid echad comes along is believed, even if he's a disqualified aid, it's possibly he would be still acceptable. Rabbi says no. If you believe this single person has such credibility that you believe him, that as two, then zilafke. Because one aid does not do it. How do I know the time you learn? There's a story with Yanei HaMelech. Yanei HaMelech, there's a whole discussion in the Gemara and Brachas, but Machlekes Abaye Rabba actually who Yanei HaMelech is, whether Yechid Kohen Gadol and Yanei HaMelech are the same person or not. He was a descendant from the Chashmonaim, and he acted not only as the king, but also as the Kohen Gadol. He took both powers under his belt. And regarding Yanei HaMelech, there was a rumor abound that his mother was taken to captivity, and we know that if a woman is taken to captivity by Goyim, with the Rabbanon, she cannot marry a Kohen because maybe something happened untoward, and therefore she's possible. But talking with the Rabbanon, we have no evidence that something actually happened. And there was a rumor saying exactly that about Yanai. But that rumor was discounted or dispelled, and Yanai was accepted as a Kohen Gadol. So this is the story. Yanai king, he went to Kodesh Midbar. The Kivisham Shishim Krochim. And he conquered the 60 cities. On his way back, he was jubilant. He invited all the Rabbanim. Our ancestors ate maluchim, the cheap vegetables, because they were so poor when they came to build the second base of English, coming from Babel, and they were all so impoverished. And it's so they were all very poor. Let us do the same thing and show that what kind of stock we are, where we came from, where today. He brought these vegetables on the golden tables, but also they ate, and they were very happy. This one man there was evil. Elazar Peter, Shemai names Elazar Peter. Elazar Peter Yan Melech, and he said to Yanai, Yan, he said Yanai Melech, Libam shall Perushim Melech. I want to inform you that the rabbis don't like you. She says, Ma Ese, what should I do to prove one way or another? So he says, Hakela betzitz shebeyanech, you're kind God. Will take the tzitz and place it upon your head, and they'll have to stand over there, and then maybe they'll be honest and tell you what they really think of you. And how exactly did he wear the tzitz outside the base? So maybe Rashi says, because before we already learned that Loinitna Tedel Malachi Ashadas, they were allowed to wear their clothes even after the Avodah. Taisa disagrees totally. He says all it means is you don't take it off immediately, but of course you cannot just walk around and have a party wearing the clothes. But tzitz is unique because it says it should be on his forehead always, so therefore he's allowed to be even shaloi b'shas Avodah. Anyway, so he said, well, so what should I do? Hakala b'tzitz bein lecha, place the tzitz between your eyes and see what happens. Heikin lembetzish ben Yavi placed it. Hoyisham Zokanech, there was an old man, the Yehuda ben Gedid Yishma. His name is Yehuda ben Gedid. Very difficult to, as we read the Gemara, whether the Gemara thought Yehuda ben Gedid did the right thing for sort of chastising Yanei Melech, or he did the wrong thing. It's enough that you're a king. And leave it for the children of Adam. By saying that, he meant to say, and you're not worthy, or you're not eligible. And the reason why he said that is because they used to say, that his mother was taken in captivity in Maidim, but they searched, they can never find it. The Yebodu Chachmi Sobra got so angry, he chased out the Chachamim, separated them in anger. He continued. He was on a crusade. He said, Yanei Melech, Hedyet should be so kachudino. For an ordinary person, humiliated. This is what he does. But this is what you're going to do. He said, what should I do? What kind of retribution should I give them? You hear my advice? I want you to crush them. That was Rahman kill them. So he asked for Torah Matela, I was going to Torah. Hari Krucha umanachas bekeden zavis. It's wrapped up and singing in the corner. It's a little bit Yabba. There's so much to learn. Go and learn. Amrach Yitzchak miyad nizika bazar because Yane bought into this argument. I should have said Teinach Torah shebiksav, but Torah shebapem. Who's going to teach Torah shebapem? It's not lying. According, you need Rabbanim to teach. In fact, the Ran said the reason why the Eibush said Torah shebapem should not be recorded to force us to go to learn from Rabbanim and Shivas. And this is how you have Messiah passing on, and also to make sure we learn the correct way. Otherwise, we can learn wrong shot. Miyad through the evil decree came out. Everyone was killed except Shim Meshat's own brother-in-law, his wife's brother, was taken. It was put into hiding. And the world was desolate. Shim came back. We looked at our brachas. He came to bench for them, and slowly but surely he got rid of what would snook him and so the head and he brought back Torah to its way it should be. Now, what's the case here? First, there was a rumor, and then it was discounted. Hey, what happened? Two people came along and said, yes, your mother was taken captivity. Two people came along and said, they were not taking captivity 2 against 2. So how come he was allowed to be Kohen Gadol? My chaz is the Samchir. Why do you deem it fit to rely on the ones that said that nothing happened? So rely on the ones that said something didn't happen. The obvious question is, we have a rule today, whenever there's 2 against 2, we hang Marivamis, you go back to the Chazaka, where the Chazaka is the mother is tired. Is a kosher woman. So why? What's the most question? Why should we be machmir? The question is, we're not focused. Actually, explain. We're not focusing on the mother. We're focusing on Yanai, and Yanai was born in question. Was he legitimate or not legitimate to be a kohen? And therefore, there's no chazaka here. Faces and others have a problem with that because the mother's chazaka, as more like Maksuv is that in first Pedic, but the mother's chazaka should have bearing on him. At least he's a corollary. He's a derivative of that chazaka. And if the mother we assume is kosher, then the child obviously is kosher as well. So they learned that the whole idea of today Smech Chazak is only midrabanan by true midrabanan and things like that. But now when it comes to question of Torah, we're machmer. So the question is, why did we discount the rumor? Must be, says Abaya, must be there's only one aid that came along and said that they were taking captivity, and then 2 aides came along and said, Baba Mice, it never happened. And 2 crushed the aidus of 1. Now, what happens if it wouldn't have been 2 to crush aidus of 1, but it would only that he would have been quiet? Then we would have accepted aidus. You see, clearly an aid echad would have been affected by shavuya, which is our rights. The time of the Kamachlet to contradict him. Allah is believed. So that is his right, and Eid Echad is believed. He said, no, we're 2 against 2. We're talking about that the second pair of Eidim were not Eide Hakosha, Eidim who contradicted the first two, then we don't know who to believe. The second pair were Eide Hazama, they came along and said, maybe it happened, maybe it didn't, but you were not around to know that it happened. And therefore, they're no longer in the position to defend themselves because they gave it over. And that's why we believe the second pair. Or that's what the Torah says, or because there's a Chiddush, as we'll learn more Makis. So bottom line is, it's Eide Hazama, that's why the second pair is believed, which means that we believe that he's not a problem. So therefore, it's difficult to know from the Gemara whether Yehuda ben Gedidya did the right thing by humiliating Yanir Melech in public when it was already been cleared. He's been cleared from any of these suspicions or allegations. Not clear. Another answer is they knew that she was taken captivity, but immediately as soon as she was taken, they substituted her for a maid that looked similar to her or something, and therefore she was never there. So that's a bias. How do I know that a single aid by Arois is not good enough? I'll tell you. The story she said, there's a story of Megoida. There was a story of a little pool of water, which was a mikveh b'shel diskin, the town of diskin, or the person known as diskin, b'yavne and yavne. Everyone thought the mikveh had 40 saw, and then one day they measured it, it was only 39. So what happens if people went to the mikveh and used the mikveh and then they touched taharis all the time that they thought that they were tired? Since we don't know when this happened, so we have a chazaka that the water was 40 saw a while ago, so we'll assume the chazaka raked and now hashtahu that it became chasa. Hashtahu chasa. And Kiva says no, betame. Tame, we look at the person. The person was tame till now. He has a cheskas tame. You want to change the chazaka, prove that the mikveh was tired. Or on top of mikvah, it's complete. You wanted because of a suffix, on the chasr, retrospectively to make the water less and calm everything out the chasr in the suffix. You don't do that. Let's look at the person. This person is chazaka that he's tummy. This suffix got the balatari. You want to say maybe he's tired till this moment. I'll tell you the suffix. You can't do that. I'll give you an analogy. The kind of standing in me, it turned out to be he found that he's possible because his mother was a divorcee, so he's a chulul. But he didn't know. He never knew. So what happens to all the avodas he did till now? All the people who kabbalas, what happens? Shabbat doesn't shave him. Since he didn't know it's kosher, say the mikveh. Since we thought the mikveh was kosher, it's kosher. Says Moshe Omar Akiva said, Moshe lo aimed the makagam is bech. Moshe the summer standing the mak is bech. I compare it to a kind that found his balmum and then see retrospective. Shavnasim Sula, even retrospective. Jason wants to know what's your Tafra's analogy to a person who was turned out to be Ben Grusha, because even if he knew he was a Ben Grusha, if he was working with Mizbeach, whatever he did, but it is all right. So what are you comparing it to a mikveh where if we didn't know? So Taisa says it must be that Tarfon actually argued another point. Tarfon says that even if later on we found out definitely the mikveh was chassid, not maybe, and we're relying on the chazaka. For example, the guy went back to his measurements and realized, hey, last month when I measured it, I miscalculated. It's 39. So we now know for a fact that the entire month there was a chassid. Nevertheless, Tarfon holds that since you didn't know, and you went to the mikveh, it's her, which means an amazing thing. So according to Tarfon, the mikveh is not just the act of going through water, it's the machshava. And since your machshava was that you were coming clean, and even though be'emes you were not, because there was knowing that the mikveh was chassid, but in your mind it was a shalom, you're ready to it. Akiva says no, the mikveh is not just the mind, it has to be the entire experience, and therefore it's not. Anyway, further, Amr Tarfon says, after the mitzvah balmum. Tarfon says you want to compare it to a kohen balmum, and therefore retrospective is possible. I need the misi the because when I say we compare Ben Grusha, needle the midayim. Let's see who should we compare it to. Ben Grusha Ben Chalutza. If it's similar to a Ben Grusha Ben Chalutza, then in Ben Chalutza, then we should judge it that way. And what? Then be able to kosher. Then everything having to pass is kosher. In daim the balmum, then it's Ben balmum. And if it's similar to balmum, we should judge the balmum that everything that passes is not kosher. He's said, okay. Here's my case. Mikveh placed to be yochid. A mikveh is possible if a single eight comes along and says the mikveh is not 40 sa, it's possible. But about mum and about mum, if a comes along and says you have a mum, that's a defect for Kura, it's possible. But by you cannot use Ben Grusha Psula Bishnayim. By Ben Grusha, you need two people to come along. This is going to be a proof from us, we'll soon see. Two people to come along and say that you are a Ben Grusha. Another reason said Akiva, mikveh psula begufay, baal mum psula gufay. Mikveh, the psula is in the water itself, and the baal mum, the psula is in the person that he has a mum. Now yechid ben grechlut, there's nothing wrong with the person. He's the derivative of somebody else misbehaving. Shepsul b'chedim. Don't have time for turn around to Akiva and Akiva. Anybody out there who does not separate themselves from you, who doesn't agree with you, is leaving behind life. I Balmum should solve Yachid. I mean, this Balmum that possibly Yachid. What are we talking about? You're saying you have what the Balmum is possibly Yachid. What are we talking about? Either come if the guy is contradicting himself, no, I'm not a Balmum, then why would you believe him? So obviously he's agreeing. Hello, the Shasik. By Balmum, the 8 says you have a mum, and he's quiet, and that's it, he's possible. Which means if the 8 comes along and says you're a Ben Gurush and he's quiet, he wouldn't be possible. Is a right to me, says Rava, that an Eidech and your shticket together does not make up two Eidim. With the Kabbalah Ben Gurush, the Shasik is quiet. You can't make up Sul Yachid, Balmum, Sul Yachid, Bal Yachid. Don't prove this is called Rabbi Kiva. But Ben Gurush is Sul Shnai too. So we see that his quietness is not considered as another Eid. Abai says no. Go back to what I said. It's a single Eid, and you contradict him. So your question is, if you contradict him, why does he believe when the 8 says you have a move and he says no, I don't? Why do you believe the 8? Because very simple. Any Eidus which can be verified, we believe the 8. And very easy. Go get undressed and show us whether you have a woman or not. We take off your clothes and we'll see. This is what he says. Mikvah is possible gufa. But these things are psul in the thing itself. Apostle from others. So here it's very easy to determine whether you are coming or not, or whether you have a mum or not. Right? Ben Grusha Ben Chalutz know. How do you know that a Ben Grusha served his avoidance kosher? Maybe it's possible. I mean, how do you know if he didn't know at the time? We go to the Pasuk, should be him and to his children after him, not specifying which children. He's at a kosher, but he's at a Pasuk. I don't care what kind of children it is. So that's how we know that if they did avoidance kosher. That tells us the same idea. Baruch Hashem Chela, Hashem blesses Chela. The strength of toil, Yodam Tirtzeh, when the handiwork of his hand would be acceptable. And so we say, Chela is Afilu Shabai Tirtzeh. He said that even those who are Chalalim, Ben Chalal, Ben Chalutza, is kosher. Come and visit the Kohen in your times. What's the proof of that possible? We think you go to a Kohen that's not been around in your time. So is that kosher and it's halal, but doing that wrong. If you had a Kohen and that he became a halal, nevertheless, whatever he did is kosher. Okay, now Balmum, you're telling me Balmum is different. There's a way to be able to fossil. How do you know that? I'm giving him the Pinchas, I'm giving him his covenant of Shalom of wholeness. So we're showing peace. We're going to show peace, also means wholeness. If your Shalom has to be whole, not if he's a Balmum. So if it says in the Pasuk, Shalom, peace, don't do it whole. The Vav in the word Shalom is so chopped off. And therefore, it's as if to read Shalom, but also Shalom. And one has to be. Says the Mishnah gives a few rules. We'll discuss in the next few weeks. We're talking about Yuchsin, about the pedigree, and how to determine what's kosher, what's not kosher, what's possible, pogum, and so on. Says the Mishnah. From anywhere. This is the rule of law. Anyone who gets married to Yesh Kiddushin, it's an effective marriage, and there ain't Aveda, nothing wrong with the marriage. As we'll see, Koyin and Levi, they so marrying each other. There's effective Kiddushin, nothing wrong. Then, Avlad Hoylech Achazach. When it comes to determining the Shevet, whatever it is, we always follow the father of Koyin and Levi. The age was rule. So first he starts with saying, as if he's coming to make this general rule. And then he starts saying the Ezezu, and he spells it out as if to say that there might be a case or two that you like things included, but you shouldn't have included. So the Ezezu, I'm limited to Kohenes and Israel, should also Kohenes. I'm limited to that. That's case number one. Again, a generic group. Sheyesh, there is Kiddushin. There's a fact of the Yesh Aveda. So in other words, by Chayim Alav and nothing going to keep, but we hold this Kiddushin of Kohen and Kiddushin. Then, who does the blood go after? The father, the mother. Blood, no father, no mother. He gets at the lesser degree of either one. So whichever one is the problem, the son, that's what the child, that's who the child follows. The days are given example. So again, start off cold, includes everything, and then we're now limiting it by Ezezu. I'm not the kind of well, Bruce is also kind headed. We don't manage a kind of and we're mamzeres when the sin is so all these are a sin, but the fact that the child born doesn't follow his father and mother, follows the psul. Passing through the mamzer the sin to that nation that the government of Moshe received and took them in. Anyone that there's no condition for. There's no condition to you. Sorry, you see, this is the definition. That's the number two. There the child goes after the child. So when the mamzer or mamzer is what's through, child becomes a mamzer. Child becomes a chul. The chul, so the clay marries as the Rupsi, he doesn't become a chul, but the child becomes a chul. And anyone who does not have Kiddushin, in other words, let's say your sister can't marry, you can marry, or she can marry anybody else. Case number three. You cannot marry. Others could. That child is a mamzer. So he says, what's an example of that? Okay, that's case number three. Now, case number four. Let's say a goy. There's no Kiddushin anybody. Havlad kamaisa, so the mother is moshe goy, and the child is just like the mother. The mother's a goy or a shifra, the child's like that. But if the father's a goy, the mother's a yid, if Mishnah seems to learn, the child is a yid. We'll continue tomorrow, Mr. Shem.